All right, happy Friday, guys. Welcome. We got 10 games to go over, and I mentioned in the video last night that this is going to be one of the craziest slates of the year, and it just is. We're already getting some news with some guys that are now questionable. There's a lot of games early, too, so, like, let's say, for example, with the Blazers, if you play for Lillard being ruled out and he gets ruled in, like, a few, like, 15 minutes before that game, you're in like a rough spot because then you only have like 2 games you can like make changes to. So, yeah, and we're still waiting on a ton of news. So I'm gonna go over what we know so far, and then we can talk about the team by team breakdown. So, Lonzo is in. We did get news that he is on a minutes limit. So confirm it. It's 100%. He's playing 40 minutes tonight. Hamidou Diallo is questionable. Bembry got ruled in. Lillard questionable is massive. Absolutely massive, because if Damian Lillard is out, I don't know how you get away from CJ McCollum. And then I'm curious to see what they do with the starting lineup, right? I don't even know who they start. Do they move Melo in the starting lineup and go a little bit bigger? Do they move like a guy like Anthony Simons in the starting lineup, who's kind of been out of the rotation? Tobias is unlikely to play. Honestly, doesn't do a ton. Satoransky being questionable, also pretty big. We have Levine out, Sato possibly out. If he's out, I think Kobe White then becomes a pretty good play at his price. Kawhi Leonard out. Again, rip my best ball team. Lonzo Ball, again, we went over this. Minutes limit, so guaranteed 40 minutes. Paul George now game time decision, so Clippers now might have both stars out. Van Fleet in. Minutes wise, we haven't seen him in a while. Historically, the Raptors have just given their stars full run once they've come back, but this is a little bit of a different situation, right? They want to lose games, so it's just like I have a little bit of an uneasy feeling about Van Fleet. Let's just say if I knew he was going to play 38 minutes tonight, I would love him, but there's just like I just have that like a little bit of a hutch like that he might only play 25, 30 minutes. I don't know. Bembry out, Gary Trent Jr. out, Bembry in. The Raptors, I think, have 10 or 11 healthy bodies, so they still have a decent amount here. And that's what we got so far. All right. Where are we at? 150 viewers, 23 likes, guys. If you could hit that like button, it does help me out a lot, so thank you very much. All right. As far as the Vegas totals, a couple of ones that stand out. In the Pelicans Wizards, that's at a 240 over under. Portland and San Antonio is at a 232 over under. This line is starting to go in favor of the Spurs. I think it was 2.5. Now it's 1. That leads me to believe that Lillard might not play. So yeah, that would be massive news. Massive news. All right, so we'll start with New Orleans and Washington. On the New Orleans side, I do kind of like Zion Williamson at the top. I don't think he's going to be super popular. Again, Lonzo in, Ingram in. So it's not like he has the offense to himself, but love the matchup, and I think he should be about a 10K player. And, with the matchup, obviously, that makes him more in play. So I do like Zion. I'm not really going to get to Ingram or Lonzo, and that's probably it for me. I don't think I have interest in anyone else. It's basically Zion, and that is it. On the Washington side, it's basically the top 2 guards in Westbrook and Beal. I think both look really good. This is setting up for sure for stars and scrub slate. Like, I don't see how you go balance on this slate. So Westbrook and Beal, I think, are both going to be popular. Obviously, would prefer Beal if you can get to him. You could even play both and just screw it and go full game stack. Play Beal, play Westbrook, and play Zion, and then just play all value. It's possible. Like, you can do it. There's enough value to do that. So, Westbrook, I think, is a little more safer play, but I like the price on Beal below 9K. Value-wise, I will just mention Daniel Gafford. It's definitely a contrarian play with other value centers already on the board. Right, we have Isaiah Stewart, we have Kem Birch. There's a few others that just look better for minutes-wise. But yeah, Gafford's a guy that will probably get around 15 to 18 minutes. He's been a phenomenal point per minute guy. And by off chance he plays more, like maybe they just extend him to like 22 to 25 minutes, he could have a really, really big night. But it's on this slate, I don't know if it's necessary to do it. All right, OKC and Detroit. There's honestly not a ton I love on the Thunder side. I prefer the Pistons side much more because the price tags. A guy like Moses Brown is in play for tournaments. Again, we have a lot of value at center. We have Embiid and Jokic at the top. I don't think it makes sense to play mid-range center on the slate. Dort had a big game last game, might inflate the ownership. If you want to go back to the well, sure. I'm not going to do it. He's been too inconsistent for me. Baisley, Maladon, Roby, playable, but they're at tricky price points. They're at in the mid-range. I just don't know if I want to be living in this mid-range on this 10-game slate. Moving on to Detroit, there's a lot more to like. So, yes, they still have, they have 8 guys out or so, but they still have, I think, 10 healthy bodies they can use. We'll start at the top with Josh Jackson at 5'3". I want to see what they do with the starting lineup. I don't think we have the starting lineup news out yet. Jackson minutes have been a little bit up and down, but he's a guy that, okay, so Magic's are starting Cole Anthony, Gary Harris, Ennis, Okeke, and Carter Jr. Okay. Not huge news there, but yeah, so Josh Jackson is a guy that's not afraid to shoot the ball. He's a good offensive player, and if he plays over 30 minutes in this game, you could see a pretty big game from him. Saddiq Bey at 4'8", has not been a great point per minute guy, but I think he plays pretty big minutes. I think we get about 35 minutes from Saddiq Bey. He's priced below $5K. I think he's a really solid value play. I also really like Isaiah Stewart with no Mason Plumlee. As long as he stays out of foul trouble, we should get about 30 minutes from him, maybe a little bit more. The few games that Mason Plumlee's missed recently, Stewart's had really big games. So I think he's one of the better value plays of the slate. Also, keep an eye on Hamidou Diallo. He is questionable. If he's out, that's one less body in the rotation. If he's in, if he starts, I actually like him. If he comes off the bench, a little bit risky. He's a good point per minute guy, but it seems like the teams don't want to give him minutes, like when he was on the Thunder and now on the Pistons. It's revenge game narrative if you're into that, if he does play. The point guard situation here, so they have 3 guards still with Killian Hayes, Saben Lee, and Frank Jackson. Frank Jackson's been playing more of the off guard, though, for the Pistons. So Killian Hayes and Saben Lee, I think, split the point guard duties. I think Killian Hayes starts. If he does start, I think we get, pretty similar minutes for both. I think mid-20s for both. I think both are pretty good value plays. Might give the edge to Saben Lee for a little bit cheaper if he comes off the bench, but I do like both Pistons point guards in Killian Hayes and Saben Lee. I think, again, 2 pretty solid value plays. If you want to get really, really contrarian in tournaments, you can consider a guy Jahlil Okafor. He should play about 15 minutes off the bench. He's a great point per minute guy, but I don't think he plays much more unless something happens to Isaiah Stewart. And then Frank Jackson, there's a chance he might start. If he does start, I would like him more here. If he comes to the bench, a little bit riskier. So really, there's a ton of guys that are in play for the Pistons. Is there one standout play? I have to play them. Have to play that guy? No, but I do think probably getting to at least one Piston in your lineup is smart, I would say, in this slate. All right, so that's 2 games up, 2 games down. We are at 200 viewers and 50 likes, guys. If you could leave a like button if you do enjoy, it really, really does help me out. Questionable to doubtful. Is that what they said? Questionable. Wait. Oh yeah, based on what we've seen recently. Yeah. So yeah, he's gonna be ruled out and then ruled back in after lock. Yeah, that's 100% confirmed. Yeah. That's good. All right, so Clippers and 76ers. This one's interesting because now Paul George is questionable. Kawhi Leonard is out. If Paul George is out too, it's not a good matchup. Does increase the chance of a blowout, but you have a couple guys that are in play even in a bad matchup. Again, Reggie Jackson, he usually will step up when the Clippers are shorthanded. He did last game, in 37 minutes, 1 for 39 fantasy points. So sure, the matchup's not great, but would have some interest in Reggie for tournaments. Also, Marcus Morris, assuming he is in, I think we get about 30 to 35 minutes from him. He's not afraid to shoot the ball. So I think the 2 guys I look to first are probably Reggie, Marcus Morris. I don't really want to play Zubac against Joel Embiid. Batum. I don't know if I can stomach Nick Batum after what he did last slate to me. Luke Kennard would probably start if no Paul George. I don't think he plays 39 minutes though, but maybe we get about 30 minutes from him. So those 3 I think would be where I would look with Reggie, Morris, and Kennard. I don't think there's a must play in the Clippers though. Yeah, with Fred VanVleet, we don't know. I don't think he's going to be, but I would not be surprised if he plays limited minutes. Moving on to the 76ers. So Joel Embiid is the guy for me. Again, you got two spend-up centers with Embiid and Jokic in the slate, but we also have a lot of value centers, so it's going to be tricky. I think Embiid will be lower owned. I think if people are spending up at center, they're going to go to Jokic. But Embiid, if this game does stay competitive, should play about 35 minutes and should be able to feast against Zubac and Boogie Cousins. Tobias Harris is out. Honestly, does that do much for me? Not really. Korkmaz probably does play more. He's playable. He shot the ball really well last few games, so it kind of feels like chasing if you go to Korkmaz. I'm not going to lie. I just prefer other value on the slate. So it's Embiid for me, and that's it. Tobias Harris news doesn't do much for me. All right. Do we have any more news? Let's see. All right, so Charlotte and Brooklyn. Charlotte's really shorthanded. It's a good matchup. Like, Brooklyn is terrible in defensive end. If you think this game stays close, I think Rozier looks like a really, really good tournament play. He played 43 minutes last game in no overtime. That is absolutely insane. 43 minutes. Again, if we get 43 minutes out of Rozier in this spot, he could have a really, really big game. So I do like Rozier for tournaments a lot. Mid-range, I think Bridges is solid. I don't love the price point, but he should play mid-30s minutes. McDaniel should get about mid-30s minutes. Again, the price is coming up, but I still think viable. The centers, probably not going to do it. We're still waiting on Brad Wanamaker news. He's currently questionable. If he misses, I think like the Martin twins look really good. It was Caleb, right? Not Cody. Yeah, Caleb Martin had the big game 2 games ago. If he starts, I think he's someone that would look like a pretty good value play. And if there's no Wanamaker, you could even look to Cody Martin. So a little bit hard to say right now with the Hornets. But yeah, if there's no Wanamaker, I think that the Martin twins do look even better. I think I would say Caleb is in play either way. Like, assuming he starts, I think he's a good value. But if there's no Wanamaker, you could even consider Cody Martin, just because they just don't have a lot of guys they can use. Wanamaker's in. Okay. PJ out. Wanamaker in. PJ out. Okay. So, yeah, with Wanamaker in, I think Wanamaker himself is not a bad value play. I think we get around 20 to 25 minutes from him. So I do have some interest there in Wanamaker. We'll see what they do at the starting lineup, right? I'm curious to see what the Hornets do at the starting lineup, but Wanamaker is definitely someone that is viable as well. All right, on the Brooklyn side, Kyrie, KD are definitely more contrarian plays for me. I think they're fine tournament options. Again, don't love the price on Kyrie, but it's a good matchup. KD, if there's no minutes limit, I think looks pretty good, but I don't know if we're going to get any clarity on that. He did play 27 in a blowout, so in a close game, he probably would have played over 30 in that one. So I think the minutes restriction is close to off for Kevin Durant. So if the game does stay close, you might get like a super low-owned Kevin Durant that could smash. So a little bit of interest in him in tournaments. Value, probably nothing for me with Blake Griffin back. Orlando and Toronto, there's not much here for the Magic for me. I think if there's no Bamba, Wendell Carter Jr. is viable in the mid-range. Again, Cole Anthony is starting. He's solid. I think he plays 25 to 30 minutes. The issue is they still have a lot of guys they can use, so I don't have a ton of interest in the Magic. A little bit more interest here for the Raptors for me. So Fred VanVleet is at 7.9K. First game back in a while. And I haven't seen anything of a minutes limit. Normally, these Raptors, when they're available to play, they play their full minutes. So, assuming VanVleet plays 38 minutes like he usually does, I think he's one of the better plays of the slate for sure. Will we for sure get 38 minutes? I'm not convinced about it. So, there's just a little bit of risk there with VanVleet. But if he gets his similar minutes, I really like him. Boucher, fine tournament play. Again, the issue is he's only center eligible. We know this guy's a lot of upside, but it's not like we're getting him super cheap anymore at 7.1K. Yeah, Malachi Flynn's playable too. Will take a back seat with VanVleet now in this offense. I still think he plays about 35 minutes. I just don't think it's like a smash play at his price. Khem Birch is the guy that I really like at 3.8. Revenge game narrative. He played 29 minutes the last game. They started like a big front court with him, Boucher, and Siakam. Assuming that he and Boucher both start again, I think we probably get about 30 minutes from Khem Birch, which in my opinion makes him one of the best values of the slate. And then value, I'm curious to see who else they start here. So I'm guessing it's going to be VanVleet, Flynn, Boucher, Birch. And then does Bembry start since he's available? I'm not sure. So keep an eye on the starting lineup for Toronto and what they do. Okay, we don't have that yet. Denver and Houston. So I mentioned Jokic. I think he is a really good spend up. The issue is, again, he's only center eligible, and there's a lot of good value at center. But if you are spending up, I think him and Embiid are two of the better plays of the slate. Great matchup here. Should play mid-30s minutes in a close game. So Jokic looks really good at the top. Of the mid-range guys of MPJ, Barton, and Gordon, it's MPJ for me. I don't think I go there in a cash game setting, but he's been really consistent. He's definitely been their number 2 player. when Jamal Murray's been out. And then value-wise, assuming Monte Moore starts again, I think he's a decent value. The issue is they still have Composo. They still have Dozier they can use. So, I don't think he's going to play 35 minutes. But if we get close to 30 minutes from Monte Morris, below 4K, starting point guard against Houston, I think he does look like a pretty good value that might go overlooked on the slate. Moving on to Houston. So, there's a few guys in Houston I think are going to play for tournaments. Wall, Wood, you can even make the argument for Kevin Porter Jr. or Olynyk. We'll start with Wood. It's nice that he's power forward eligible. He's gone for 50 plus last couple games. I don't love the matchup here, but these Rockets are just playing massive minutes. All the starters are playing massive minutes. Again, John Wall is one of my favorite tournament plays. Last slate, he went for 50 plus at low ownership. I think he's a good tournament play again. Definitely not an optimal play, but when John Wall is healthy and out there, he's a guy that's not afraid to shoot, and again, a very, very high usage guy. Kevin Porter Jr. has played 40 and 41 minutes. Again, usually he will take a backseat with Wall in, so more of a secondary play. And Kelly Olynyk's been playing really well, too. He played 38 minutes that last game. And the minutes are just massive for some of these Houston guys. So I will say that, I don't think there's any priority plays here. But if the Rockets can keep this game close, don't be surprised if you see a big game from at least one of these guys, maybe even two. So I am intrigued by the Rockets. I think you could stack this game. You could go Jokic and run back with Wood or Wall or even an Olynyk. I'm intrigued by the Houston side. So, again, if this game does stay close, massive minutes for all of them. I think they look decent. Yeah, a little bit, but if I'm playing Christian Wood, it's already a high risk play. So it's I'm just gonna be whatever. If he gets in foul trouble, I'm done. But that would be one where a very contrarian play because he's gonna be super super low owned. So I would just be willing to roll the dice if I'm gonna go there. Memphis and Chicago. So Jonas Valanciunas I do like, and the issue is he's only center eligible, but he's just playing massive minutes. 36, 32, 34, 33 minutes. It's a good matchup. Assuming we get 33, 34 minutes again, I do like JV. If I'm gonna play mid-range center, I don't know if you consider him mid-range at 7'9". JV's the guy. So I do have a good amount of interest in Jonas Valanciunas. Ja's a fine tournament play. We know he's really hasn't flashed the big upside. It's still there. It definitely is. I'll say the same thing about Luka, right? We know Luka is still a really good player and the upside is there. We just haven't seen it a lot recently. Ja still has 50 plus fantasy point upside. It's just we haven't seen it recently, so he's gonna be very, very low owned. But don't mind taking a shot at him for tournaments. If there's no Brandon Clark, you can look to slow-mo. I don't love the price, but he does get a pretty significant boost when Clark is out. On the Chicago side, do we have Sato news out or Sato news yet? This one's gonna be tricky because Sato is currently questionable. So Levine's out, Sato's questionable. The one concern is look at this roster. They still have 15 guys they can use. So it's not like they're super short-handed, even if Sato misses. But I will say it kind of depends what they do the starting lineup. I would assume Kobe White starts if there's no Satoransky. If he does start, 30, 35 minutes from him in a good matchup would make him a pretty good play in the mid-range. And then I don't know who else they move into the starting lineup. Does a Denzel move into the starting lineup? Again, they have Garrett Temple they can dust off. They have Troy Brown Jr., Ryan Arcidiacono can play a few minutes. They just have a bunch of guys on the end of the bench that can soak up some minutes. So a little bit worried about the bench. But depending on who starts, I do have a little bit of interest in Chicago. Probably Kobe White and then maybe whoever starts at the 2. And then I will mention Daniel Tice. I think he will go overlooked once again, but 29, 27, and 27 minutes. He's one of the value centers that I think looks pretty good here and will not be popular, but I do still like Tice. And then Vooch at the top if you want to get contrarian with no Levine. Offense should run through him, but I don't love the price point. All right, Miami and Minnesota. So great matchup here. I think Jimmy, Bam firmly in play. Would prefer Jimmy just because he's small forward eligible or Bam is center, and there's a lot of good plays at center. Nothing else for me on the Minnesota side or the Miami side. The Minnesota side, there's nothing. Cat and Edwards contrarian plays, but I just think that's getting too cute on this slate. All right, so we got 2 games left. We got about 15 minutes until I'm going to hop out of here. We're still waiting on starting lineups for basically everything. All right, so Portland and San Antonio. This is the big news, and this is the tricky part because Lillard is questionable. A downgrade to questionable midday is not a good sign, and based on what I see in the Vegas totals too, it's starting to go in San Antonio's favor, which leads me to believe Lillard's going to be out. Again, there's no confirmation on that, but if you like play CJ McCollum, let's just say you play CJ and Lillard gets ruled in at 7:15 Central, you're basically screwed, right? If CJ's your like last guy, you just have to stick with it because like you have like no pivots, right? So that is the tricky part. But for me, you guys know, or I'm sure a lot of you know, I'm a risk taker. I'm willing to take risks like that. And if Lillard gets ruled in way after lock and I'm just left with CJ, so be it. I'm going to lose. But if Lillard, again, gets ruled out way after lock, like let's just say Lillard gets ruled out at 7:15 Central, I don't think CJ is going to be that popular, right? Because people just aren't going to have a lot of room left in the late game. It's a weird slate where a lot of the good plays are early. So this, I think, is a really interesting spot. Again, what I'm hoping for is Lillard gets ruled out way after lock. So CJ's ownership is down, because if we get a low-owned CJ with no Damian Lillard, I think he could break the slate at 8K. So love CJ if there's no Lillard. Centers are kind of just meh. Again, Nurkic playing a little bit more, but I don't know if we have to go there in this slate. Him and Cantor should still get a somewhat even split. With Rocco and Powell, like Powell does get a slight boost, but like the price points don't make a ton of sense. Like they're viable contrarian plays. Where I'm really interested in is I don't know who else they're going to start if Lillard's out. Like, does a Carmelo move into the starting lineup? He did play 28 minutes and shot well last game. If that is the case, if they go a little bit bigger, say they move like Norm Powell to the 2, like Covington to the 3, Melo to the 4. If Melo starts, I think he's a really good value. Or like maybe they start a guy like Derek Jones Jr., who's kind of been out of the rotation. Anthony Simons has been completely out of the rotation, but maybe there's like a slim chance he picks up a start. If he does, like he's a good value. So keep an eye on who they end up starting if Lillard is out. Would have some interest there depending on who it is. But really the main interest is CJ. If Lillard is in, I basically don't have interest in the Portland guard. So on the San Antonio side, DeRozan's the guy for me at 7-9. It's a good matchup. He should play 35 minutes. Small forward's a little bit weak. He's a guy that can stuff the stat sheet. Should play big minutes. I think DeRozan's the guy I like the best. DeJounte Murray, Derek White in play for tournaments too, but it's really DeRozan for me where I'm looking in the Spurs. Finally, New York and Dallas. This one will be really quick. I like Randall at 9-6. I don't think he's going to be super popular. If you want a late night hammer, like no one's going to play anyone in this game, so Randall's intriguing. And then another situation where are you willing to take this risk? Nerlens Noel is currently questionable. If Nerlens Noel is out, I really like Taj Gibson for value. This could be another one, right? Nerlens Noel gets ruled out at 8 p.m. Central. Taj Gibson will probably be like 1% owned if that's the case. If that does happen, last game, Taj played 35 minutes. If we get 35 minutes again from Taj, and I really like him for value, but that's strictly dependent on Noel. If Noel plays, I have no interest in him. So another one, are you willing to roll the dice there? It's a pretty big risk because there's not a lot of pivots. Finally, Dallas, there's really nothing. Luka, if you want to get super contrarian, but this is just a terrible matchup. It's a revenge game narrative for Porzingis. I just prefer spend ups in other spots. That's all I got. All right, so do we have any news yet? Let's see. We're still waiting on so much with starters. Anything? Nothing yet. Great. That's just great. All right, so we have about 10 minutes left, guys. Leave some questions in here. 318 viewers on a Friday. Thank you, everyone, coming to check it out. One more time, last, if you could hit that like button. Let's try to reach 100 before the end of the show. All right, so what's the best utility for 7,200? I will tell you. Let's see. 7,200. I don't know if there's like anyone in this range I play in a cash game setting. I think there's 3 guys that look pretty decent in tournaments, like Boucher for tournaments, Ja for tournaments, DeJounte Murray for tournaments. But I don't think there's a cash game play. Is there a standout here? No, but I think those are the 3 guys to look to. Maybe Murray he's been pretty consistent, so maybe he's a little bit safer than Ja. But also, again, Boucher, like the upside. So there's 3 viable guys there. There's no standout play for me. The best cheap forward depends what you consider cheap. Like, are we considering below 4K cheap? Because there's not much down here. Like, again, Melo, if he starts, if there's no Lillard. Taj, if there's no Noel. The Martin twins, Caleb especially, if he starts, I think is a good value. That's probably where I'm looking, below like a 4K range. Yeah, Powell will definitely shoot more. I don't love the price, but you could go to Powell. The best spend ups, I mean, if position doesn't matter, it's Westbrook and Jokic for me. I think Westbrook does look a little bit better just because, in my opinion, there's a lot of good plays at the center position. It's loaded. There are still some pretty solid plays at point guard too, but I think I would give the edge to Westbrook over Jokic. But those two, I think, look pretty optimal at the top. Contrarian wise, I kind of like Embiid. I think he'll be lower owned. I like Zion. I think that price will scare some people off. I still think he can get there. So it depends what you're playing, but more optimal build wise, I think Westbrook and Jokic. Yeah, so fave value, I don't know if there is one. There's 3 value centers I think look pretty good. All right, we got Tice, we got Birch, and we got Isaiah Stewart. We have, Monte Morris for value. You got Caleb Martin if he starts. You got Wanamaker in there. There's a lot of value. The Pistons value again. So that's where I'm looking, I guess, for value. Satoransky is out. Okay. Satoransky is out. Will we get a Chicago starting lineup soon? I don't know. Kobe White will start. Okay, so we know Kobe White is starting. Do we know who's starting for Zach LaVine, though? So Kobe White, I now think, becomes a really solid play in the mid-range. He's had a disappointing year this year, but it's a good matchup, and they're missing, 2 higher usage players. I think with him starting, we probably get at least 30 minutes is a fair guess. He's been hovering usually in the 25-minute range. I think we get closer to the 30, maybe 30 plus. Who else starts? I'm not sure. I really don't know. So, yeah, right now I just think Kobe White is a pretty good play at his price. I don't think he's a must. And the reason I don't think he's a must still is because they have a lot of guys. They could use like a 10, 11-man rotation in this game. That's my worry. Troy Brown season. Yeah, there's if he starts, I think he'd actually be playable, where he's flat min price. Possibly, yeah. Again, I'm curious to see whoever starts at the 2. I think I have interest in for Chicago. Details for Patreon are down below. It's $1 a day for normal package, a little over $1 if you want to get in the Discord. So $30 a month for regular, $40 a month for the Discord package. Yeah, Kobe on 3,800. That seems like that's like a clear play in my opinion. Terry, CJ, Bay, MPJ, Stewart, White, Wood, Birch, Turney. It's definitely a little bit contrarian, but I have no issue with anyone. I like the upside in everyone there. Can I play 2 value centers in tournaments? Yeah. I think there's 3 value centers that look pretty good. So I definitely think you can play 2. Worth getting Beal instead of Westbrook. I will say if you're playing, I would say, yes, you can do that. You can. Van Fleet, as long as there's no limit, I think he looks a really good play. So yes, you can. Either Temple or Troy Brown starting for sure. They could start Denzel. Denzel has started games in the past with the 2. Vucevic to the moon. He will be low owned. Vuce will be low owned. DeAndre Jordan love. My issue with DeAndre Jordan is, yes, he had a big game last game in about 26 minutes, but Blake Griffin is now healthy too. Do they need DeAndre Jordan to play 25 minutes again? Not convinced about it. That was against Joel Embiid. That was a pretty specific matchup. We'll see. He could. I think I prefer the other centers a little bit more. So not completely out of play DeAndre. If he starts, would have a little bit more confidence. Westbrook, Van Fleet, Caleb Martin, McDaniels, Tice, Saban Lee, Bay, and Embiid. I like that. I think this is a stars and scrubs slate. So you don't have to play 2 value centers, right? I'm fine spending up for a center, either like Embiid or Jokic. Worried about Christian Wood with Wall and Porter in? Not really. I think Wood looks is interesting because he's power forward eligible, which is kind of nice. At a Batum performance, I'm fading him. So yeah, Batum will go for 50 tonight. Lock it in. Any order you would like the 3 value centers? I guess, Tice is probably the riskiest since he comes out the bench, but I think go with what fits. Like, if you can't get Stewart and you land on Tice and Birch, that's fine. I really like both those 3, and then the Pistons value, and then some of the other value we mentioned, like Monte Morris, some of the Charlotte guys, Martin, Wanamaker. Should we punt center position for cash games because all the value is at centers? You don't necessarily have to. There's value elsewhere too, right? We have Caleb Martin. We have Monte Morris. There's still value elsewhere. We have the Pistons guards and Saban Lee and Killian Hayes. There's value elsewhere, so you don't have to do that. Like, you can spend up in cash games for Jokic, I think, or Embiid. Possibly, I need to see some starters, Caleb. So that's kind of what I'm waiting for right now. Is it okay to stack Vooch and Jokic? It's contrarian for sure. Kobe White, that's too cheap on FanDuel, right? 3,800 is just too cheap. Doge is going crazy. I'm mad. I bought it like a while ago, a couple months ago, before the pump, and I like doubled up, and I was really happy about it, and I sold. If I still have it now, I had 500 invested. I would have like 10 grand right now if I kept it. So not a great feeling, but hey, I mean, I doubled up. I didn't think it would be going this high. So Westbrook, Rozier, Bay. Yes, I can check DMs. Westbrook, Rozier, Bay, Josh Jackson, Birch, Lee, Caleb Martin, Vooch. Yeah, I think that's good. Is Diallo in is he confirmed in? That's the tricky part about the Pistons is they still have a lot of bodies. Yeah, Diallo active. We still don't have a starting lineup there for the Pistons. Diallo is cheap, though. It's just the minutes recently for him have not been great. That's the only concerning thing. Broderick Thomas. Van Fleet, McCollum, or Rozier. Ooh. If Lillard is out, CJ's the priority for me. If Lillard is in, I'm not considering CJ. Then I think there's risks with both. I really like the upside in Rozier for tournaments today. He could play massive minutes and might be unowned. I think cash game wise would be Van Fleet then, and GPP wise Rozier. But yeah, if there's no Lillard, CJ is the guy for me. Thoughts on CJ, DeRozan, Taj, Birch, White, Zion, JV for tournaments? I think it's interesting. I like it. Like, it's super contrarian. But like, I like every player you got against some depending on news, right? Obviously CJ with Lillard, obviously Taj with Noel. Melo's my last piece in. Yeah, so if there is no Damian Lillard and Melo starts, I think we get, I would say at least 25 to 30. So yeah, Melo would be someone, if he starts, I would like Melo. 400K shares. Ooh, yeah. If he starts, you could take a shot in Temple. I don't love playing Garrett Temple, but yeah, if he does pick up the start, you could do it. Damn, Ben, that's insane. 140K. Bismack, Birch, or Tice last minute. I would say Birch, assuming he starts. Diallo or Dozier? I'm not really looking at Dozier, so Diallo, I would like Diallo if he starts. If he comes off the bench, he might only play like 15, 20 minutes. Zion and Anderson or Wood and MPJ. I'll go with the first if there's no Brandon Clark. Yeah, the Paul George news we're still waiting on for sure. I know, we need starting lineups. Yeah, Tobias Hout, again, keep an eye on who starts. I'm guessing it's Korkmaz. You can go there. My issue is he's reliant on scoring, but you can go there. Iguodala out. Oh, that's huge news, right? No. All right. Well, I'll give it another 30 seconds, and I'm going to have to get out of here. McCollum, Jackson, Morris, Gibson, Stewart, Van Fleet, Melo, Embiid. It's risky. It's risky. She's playing Reggie and Marcus Morris. Hey, if there's no Paul George, like those two are going to get a ton of shots up. I don't love the spot, but all right. I'm going to have to update some stuff for Patreon. I don't know how we haven't got like a lot of starters yet. Dwight Howard ruled out. Seth Curry out. Man, that's nothing surprising really. Was Seth Curry? Hold on. Was he already I forget. Was he questionable? Oh no, he was not questionable. Okay. Telling you guys, it's just gonna be one of those slates, man. It's just okay. So Seth Curry out does actually do a little bit here now. Now I want to see who else they start with. I think Shake Milton becomes intriguing at 4.2. Shake's like a pretty good offensive player, but hovering in the 20-minute range, 20-25. If he starts, I actually think he's someone we could look to. Max has kind of been out of the rotation. He could get dusted off for a little bit, but I think that's a little bit too contrarian. So I think Shake Milton is a guy now I'm intrigued by for Philly if he starts. So keep an eye on that one. But I have to get out of here, guys. So, yeah, Seth wasn't. Yeah, so, again, Milton is the guy if he does start. I got to update some stuff. We're still waiting on a ton of news. But thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. You're going to need this all night long. Good luck to everyone. Let's pray for